You grow up thinking the stories were just to scare kids. Every town has them, right? Warnings dressed up as bedtime tales. We had the Candleman, a red light in the woods that no one talked about, but everyone watched for. I used to think it was just part of being a weird little town, but now I'm back, and the light is still there. Same place, same flicker. And the stories? They weren't to scare us. They were to prepare us. The drive into town was longer than I remembered. It always is when you've been gone a while. Everything's smaller too, thinner trees, narrower roads, houses that look like models from a set you once built as a kid. My old neighborhood didn't feel haunted, not at first, just forgotten. The windscreen wipers clicked rhythmically as rain drizzled against the glass. Gray clouds hung low over the hills, and there it was. The crooked sign with its peeling paint just off the main road. Welcome to Merriwick. Please keep your lights on at night. I had forgotten that part, or maybe I just ignored it. The house was the same, mostly. My mother's house now, though I suppose it's mine, technically. A slumped little thing at the edge of the woods. Slate roof, white wood siding, a porch with more rot than structure. The trees behind it pressed in a little closer than I remembered. And the silence? That felt new. I parked in the gravel and sat for a moment before going inside, just to breathe, just to listen. That's when I saw it. The glow. A dim, flickering pulse, deep in the woods behind the house, like someone carrying a lantern. It barely registered at first. I told myself it was a reflection, a hunter, a trick of the eyes. But something old stirred in me, something heavy. I went inside. I didn't unpack much, just enough for a few days, longer than I wanted, shorter than I needed. The funeral had been earlier that morning. Closed casket, small service. No one cried. The neighbors nodded at me with a politeness that felt rehearsed. They didn't ask how I was holding up, didn't offer food, just little waves, blank eyes. Then they turned away, always too quickly. They remembered me, but they didn't welcome me. The house hadn't changed much, and yet every room felt unfamiliar. My mother's belongings were still arranged with careful order. Clean dishes stacked in the cupboard, unopened mail in a neat pile, her slippers by the back door. Like she might return at any moment. She wouldn't. That night, I couldn't sleep. The clock on the nightstand ticked louder than I thought possible. My phone had no service, no internet, just the wind brushing the trees outside like someone pacing just beyond the window. I got up to close the curtains, and there it was again. The red light, same spot, just past the tree line. A warm flicker, like a candle flame, steady and rhythmic. I squinted through the glass, trying to make out a shape. Nothing, just the glow. Hovering, waiting. I stared at it longer than I meant to. The longer I watched, the brighter it got. It wasn't dramatic, just a slow, pulsing shift, like a breath. The light began to throb. The red grew more saturated, more present. I could feel it behind my eyes, almost. Then, instinctively, I looked away, and the light faded. Still there, but soft again, faint, as if it had been shy all along. I waited a few seconds, heart nudging against my ribs. Then I looked again, brighter, just a little. I looked away. I repeated the test once more, staring this time for a full minute, counting silently. By the time I reached 45, the glow was bold, bleeding against the dark like a burning ember in the trees. I turned away, blinked, soft again. I backed away from the window. The stories came rushing back, not words, just feelings. Whispers traded on playgrounds and behind closed doors. How our parents used to say, if you ever see the light, don't look at it too long. I'd forgotten until now, but the body remembers. That night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, the world outside my window looked perfectly normal. Mist still hung low in the trees like it always had in autumn. Birds chirped like nothing was wrong. The red light was gone. But I didn't feel rested. I didn't feel anything really. Just unsettled. Like my body had been awake all night, even if I wasn't. I made coffee in the quiet kitchen. My mother's mugs were still lined up on the shelf in perfect order, one for every day of the week. I picked Wednesday, even though it was Saturday. By mid-morning, I found myself wandering into town, not for anything specific, just to see if the place felt as strange as the woods had. Merriwick was small, 5 blocks wide, maybe 6 long. A library, 2 diners, a bar, a gas station, a half-dozen little houses with overgrown lawns. The sidewalks were cracked, the street lamps buzz. Nothing had changed, and that made it worse. I walked past Holloway's grocery and the old sheriff's office, past the general store where the windows were always dark, even during business hours. Every so often, someone would glance at me from a porch or behind a curtain, but no one waved. They remembered me, just like yesterday, but they didn't want to talk. I stopped by the library, partly out of habit, partly because it looked the least likely to ignore me. It still smelled like old carpet and musty paper. The same woman sat behind the counter, Miss Ackerley. She had to be in her 80s by now, but she looked exactly the same. She blinked up at me with mild recognition. "You're back," she said simply. I nodded, just for a while, settling things. She didn't ask about my mother, just handed me a guest slip and went back to stamping due dates. I wandered to the back where the local history books were. Dusty, half-forgotten binders and newsletters stacked like relics. I flipped through a few: centennial celebrations, harvest festivals, black and white photos of candle walks from decades ago. Always the same procession, people holding candles, faces blank, eyes forward. In one of them, dated 1974, I saw a child holding a red lantern. Everyone else held white ones. No caption, no explanation. I turned the page, and another. Every year, one person held red. I didn't find it scary, just off. Wrong in the way dreams sometimes are. Everything technically normal, but not quite. I left the library without checking anything out. Later that afternoon, I saw Jamie. She was leaving the post office, a stack of letters in one arm, keys in the other. We made eye contact. She hesitated. Then, to my relief, she walked over. "Didn't think I'd see you back here," she said, same tone, same smirk. Her hair was shorter, dyed darker, but she was still Jamie. "Didn't plan to be," I said. "It's weird, isn't it? Nothing's changed." "That's kind of the point." Her smile faltered just slightly. "You staying at the house?" I nodded. "Yeah, just for a bit." "And you saw it, didn't you?" My throat tightened. "Saw what?" She gave me a look. Not cruel, just resigned. "The light." I didn't answer. Jamie glanced around, then motioned to follow. We walked a little down the side street toward the empty basketball court behind the community center. No one followed. "It's been coming back earlier each year," she said. "Used to be it wouldn't show until October. Now, September, maybe August next year." "What is it?" I asked. Jamie didn't answer right away. She sat on the edge of the curb and looked at the cracked pavement. "They call it the Candleman, always have, but no one really knows what it is. A spirit, a curse, some kind of," she waved vaguely, "force. Doesn't matter. What matters is the ritual." "The candle walk?" She nodded. "It's older than the town. They say it keeps him from getting restless. Everyone walks. Everyone carries a candle. If your flame goes out, you stop walking. You don't move. You don't speak. You wait for it to be lit again." "And if it isn't?" Jamie looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "Then he takes you." We sat in silence. I thought of the light in the woods, how it pulsed, how it grew brighter the longer I stared. Not a trick of the eyes, a lure. "I'm not supposed to be here, am I?" I asked. Jamie shook her head. "Number not this year. Your mom, she was the last one, and she kept it going longer than she should have, but now the cycle's broken, and the town knows." "Knows what?" Jamie stood. Her keys jingled in her hand. "That someone new has to carry the light." The next evening, I waited. I didn't pretend I wasn't. I didn't distract myself or fill the house with noise. I just sat by the window in the living room, lights off, watching the woods, watching for the red flicker I now knew had a name, the Candleman. It didn't come right away. The sun dipped low. Then the dark settled over Merriwick like a lid on a jar. One by one, the houses in the distance clicked their porch lights on, and still, I waited. By 10:40, the glow returned. It wasn't a sudden thing, more like noticing something had been there all along. 1 second, it was only trees. The next, a red pulse, dim but steady, buried just beyond the brush line. It felt farther away tonight, like it was retreating. I didn't move, I didn't blink, I just watched. Again, the longer I stared, the more intense it became. The red turned richer, deeper, like coals being stoked. I tried not to imagine eyes behind it, but this time I tested it. I looked away. 10 seconds, then back again, brighter. I stood and moved to another window across the room. Same angle, same glow. Was it closer now? It felt like it. I turned back to the couch and sat down. I stayed like that for maybe 20 minutes. The light didn't change much after that. Still pulsing, still distant, until the knock. Not loud, not urgent, just there. One knock, then silence. I didn't breathe. The knock came again. I turned toward the front door, barely visible at the edge of the room. Another knock. 3 total, like the studio door that night. That rhythm, that certainty. I stood, legs trembling. I didn't go to the door, not right away. I went to the back of the house, flipped on the porch light, and peered out the kitchen window. The glow was still there, still in the trees. I circled back, paused a foot from the front door. Then I spoke. "Who is it?" Nothing. I waited another minute. Finally, I opened it. No one. But something had been there. At the edge of the porch, a single object rested on the railing, a white candle, unlit with a long blackened wick. I picked it up without thinking. It was cold, heavier than it looked, the kind of candle you carry, the kind made to last. The front yard was still. No footsteps in the gravel, no wind in the trees. I stepped back inside and locked the door. The next morning, I found Jamie sitting on the bench outside Holloway's. She looked like she hadn't slept either. "You got the candle, didn't you?" she asked. I sat next to her and pulled it from my coat pocket. "What does it mean?" She looked at it like it was a weapon. "It means they've chosen you." I waited for her to laugh. She didn't. "I don't want it," I said. "No one ever does. That's why it matters." I stared out at the street. The town moved in slow motion, people walking carefully, not speaking, not waving. "You knew it would be me." Jamie nodded. "There's always someone, and after your mom." "What happens if I leave? Just go back to the city?" Jamie didn't look at me. "Then someone else gets it. Maybe a kid, maybe someone who won't know what to do." I looked down at the candle. The wick was curled and burned, but it had never been lit, not by me. And I realized something. The flame is still waiting. The candle stayed with me. I set it on the windowsill beside my bed that night, half hoping it would disappear by morning. Like maybe this was just another town ritual, something to scare outsiders, or some weird grief-drenched hallucination. But when I opened my eyes the next day, it was still there. Still cold, still unlit. That day passed in fragments, the kind of day where time stretches and then collapses, like the air is folding in on itself. I cleaned the kitchen, answered voicemails from a lawyer, tried and failed to eat. The candle watched me through it all, mute and still, like it was waiting for me to finally break the silence. I didn't, not until the sun began to set. Then I found myself in the hallway closet digging for a flashlight. Not because I needed it, but because I needed something to hold in my hand, a reason to leave the house, because I was going out there. I didn't know why, I just knew I had to. I put on my boots, grabbed a jacket, and took the candle with me. The woods behind the house weren't thick, but they pressed in tighter than they used to. I remembered playing here as a kid, games of tag, hide and seek, imaginary forts between trees that now looked almost skeletal in the fading light. I moved carefully, one foot after the other. The candle was cradled in my palm like an offering. After 10 minutes, I saw it again. The red glow, faint, flickering. I didn't stop this time. I moved toward it. The woods were quiet. No animals, no wind, just me and the squelch of damp earth beneath my boots. The deeper I went, the brighter the glow became. I thought about what Jamie said. No one really knows what it is, a spirit, a force, a rule. I crossed a shallow ditch and stepped into a clearing. The trees formed a loose circle, almost too symmetrical to be natural. At the center stood a figure, not quite a person, not quite a shadow. He wore a long black coat that moved without wind. His face was not visible, just a suggestion of one, something blurred, like a photo taken mid-motion. He held no lantern. The light was him, pulsing gently as though with breath. I stopped at the edge of the clearing, my hand gripping the candle tight. He raised an arm, slowly, deliberately, and pointed to the candle, then to me. I didn't move. He tilted his head, and I realized he wasn't pointing. He was offering, or waiting. I lifted the candle and held it out. He nodded, or maybe he just shimmered, and in that moment the candle sparked to life. No flame, no smoke, just light. The wick glowed with a pale, steady burn, white, clean. But inside I felt heat, not on my hand, in my chest, like something had passed through me, or into me. I staggered back a step. The figure did not follow. He lowered his arm and slowly the red glow began to fade. The last thing I saw before the trees swallowed the clearing again was the shape of a mouth, not smiling, just open and whispering something I couldn't hear. I woke in my bed. I don't remember walking back. I don't remember taking off my boots. But the candle was on my nightstand, lit, the flame steady, quiet, and I knew something had changed. I wasn't just carrying the light now. It was carrying me. They held the candle walk on the last Saturday of October. Always had, even if it rained, even if no one wanted to. The town didn't speak of it aloud. You just knew. 1 week out, the streets got a little quieter. Windows stayed shuttered after sunset. Every porch had a candle waiting on the railing, some white, some red. The color wasn't chosen, it was assigned. Mine was white. Jamie didn't explain how she knew where to be. I didn't ask, I just followed when she knocked at dusk. She had her own candle in hand, same kind, same heavy wax. We walked in silence through back streets and overgrown paths until we reached the edge of the woods. And there they were, dozens of people spaced evenly along a winding path into the trees, each holding a candle, each standing perfectly still. Some of them I recognized, others I didn't. A few looked barely old enough to drive. One man looked over 90, but all of them were watching me. Jamie stepped into line. I took the spot next to her. Then, like something ancient had given permission, the walk began. No words, no signal, just the sound of feet moving on damp leaves. One by one, candles lit, flame catching flame as the procession stirred forward, a trail of light. The forest swallowed us quickly. The further we walked, the more the path curved and narrowed. Trees leaned in. The light of the town vanished behind us. We walked for what felt like hours. No one spoke. My legs ached. My breath came shallow. But I held my candle straight. The flame didn't waver. Until it did. Somewhere deep in the woods, far from any landmark, my candle flickered once, then again. I froze. So did Jamie. The others kept walking. Jamie leaned close, whispering without looking. "If it goes out, don't move, don't speak." I didn't answer. The flame danced wildly. A wind, not felt, only heard, swept past us like breath through teeth. Then, darkness. My candle died. I didn't move, not an inch. Around me, the footsteps faded, one by one. The woods went still. Even Jamie was gone. Only me, only dark. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours, time lost all shape. And then, I felt it. Not on my skin, in the air. The red glow bloomed ahead, soft at first. The shape from before, the long coat, the blur of a face, stepped into view. No eyes, no mouth, just light. He reached out, not to take, to offer. In his hand, a lit white candle, my candle. He placed it gently into my hand, then vanished. I stood there, shaking, flame steady in my grasp. Eventually, I walked again. When I returned to the town's edge, it was nearly dawn. Jamie waited at the tree line, eyes wide, face pale. "You made it," she said. I nodded. I couldn't speak. The town had returned to normal by morning. Streets swept clean, candles gone. No one spoke of it. But that night, from my bedroom window, I saw something new. Not the red light. A dozen small white glows, moving, flickering, circling the woods, like guardians or guides, and in the center, the faintest red spark, waiting not for a sacrifice, but for me.